There's a quote, "A sucker is born every minute," that's attributed to P.T. Barnum, and that is so true. There are many weird and wonderful and stupid kickstarters and GoFundMes on the internet. Things like Solar Freakin Roadways, things like self-filling water bottles, and two-tone electric cornflake magnets. I actually might have made that last one up a bit. Well, I've just discovered a new one. Flying houses.
Oh, yes.
This idea has to be the dumbest, most ill-conceived idea that I've ever come across. I mean, the first thing I thought of when I wanted to buy my own home was, if only I could afford one that could fly. Always used to be that people waking up after a heavy night out on the lash and realising that they've just embarrassed themselves in front of all their friends with some stupid idea, it used to be that they would hope everyone forgets it. Not nowadays. Instead, what's the first thing you do? You produce a slick video and go to a crowdsourcing website. Let's have a look at Indiegogo. Welcome to Hover City and Hover House Sustainable Flying Homes, the world's first sustainable, fully equipped 108 square foot home that can fly up to 65 miles per hour by drone. Yeah, that's going to solve a lot of the world's problems. I believe that this company probably has spent quite a bit of time on graphics and video production. I would have thought it wise to instead have spent 5, maybe 10 minutes thinking about the idea and saying, no, it's bloody stupid. Let's have a look and let them tell us about it.
Cities. Centers of innovation, yet still built around primitive and heavy infrastructures. Built on some of the most advanced systems, yet everything seems burdened by complexity.
Yeah, well, you tend to need things like heat, power, transportation, internet connectivity. Of course, yeah, it's complex.
They are home to champions of climate change, yet cities contribute to more than 40% of our global emissions.
Well, based on UN estimates, by 2000, approximately 75% of the world's population lived in cities. And so if they produce 40% of the greenhouse gases, that's actually quite good. You do get economies of scale. They're cutting down on the need to travel.
They are centers of opportunity, but on average, 20% of urban residents suffer from depression and other behavioral health issues.
Yeah, knowing your house can't fly is a bit of a downer, I'll be honest.
We continue to build huge empty spaces, yet more than 14 million people become homeless every year due to climate and economic migration.
I'm sure that those unfortunates living in the streets with nothing more than a couple of cardboard boxes and a blanket to keep warm, I'm sure that they turn down any offered accommodation when they discover it can't fly.
And should a pandemic hit, cities become prisons where disease spreads at staggering rates. Today, everything changes.
Wow, tell us.
Introducing Hover House, the world's first flying, modular, and sustainable living unit. With complete automation, it can instantly assemble with other units to form off-grid buildings and then disassemble, leaving no footprint behind.
Are you sure that you thought this through properly?
Hover House is a unique living experience for adventure seekers, an inspiration to curious technology minds.
Hold on a second, I thought it was for sustainability, housing the homeless and preventing pandemics. Now it's for glorified trips across mountain ranges and keeping tech nerds happy.
A shelter for the most vulnerable, and all while protecting our precious natural resources. Welcome to Hover City, a city for bold imaginations.
Well, that is all very interesting, but I've got a sneaking suspicion there's one or two things that either you haven't thought of or you're not telling people about. Let's have a quick look through. So here we go. A hover house, hovering by use of a drone. A flying house, 65 miles per hour, 110 kilometers top speed. Featuring aerodynamic fiberglass cover, 8 propellers, foldable arms, and a built-in parachute for emergency landings. Well, if you drop an object from about 500 feet without a parachute, it will strike the ground in about 5.6 seconds. That means you have to get a parachute fully open long before that. Ordinary parachutes just won't do. Base jumpers, for instance, have to use a different system to ensure the parachute opens as quickly as possible. And have you also thought about the problem of the fact you've got 8 propellers just above you? Now, if all 8 propellers suddenly stopped and you could deploy a parachute quick enough, then I guess you might be okay. But what happens if, say, half the propellers stop? You deploy your parachute, which gets ripped to shreds by the other propellers. And of course, all that's assuming quite a height. What happens if you're a bit lower? You're suddenly going to get a house, a small house, dropping on someone's head, as well as anyone inside being rather dead. You say elsewhere on this site that the estimated size of a single unit is £2,000. So I popped that weight into a cargo parachute size calculator, and it came up with a diameter for the chute of 169 feet. Now remember, even at 500 feet, you have less than 6 seconds before you hit the ground. The height you're talking about is a building of about 5 stories tall. Yeah, good luck with that. So here we have a sample of a basic unit with a living room, kitchen and bathroom, including 2 beds, dining, sink, shelves, etc. It's got air conditioning, ventilation and plenty of space. Well, I wouldn't call that lot, in 11 square metres and 2 people, plenty of space. You mentioned depression being a problem. I think that people living in an area like that are going to get quite depressed quite quickly. So apparently it's sustainable and totally off-grid. You were thinking of the climate after all. Well, with 3 kilowatts of batteries, that's going to use an awful lot of exotic metals. 1120 watt solar panels. Well, that's not so bad if you're on the side of the building that faces the sun. If you're facing away, you're not going to generate much electric. You say it filters rainwater. Again, that's not too bad for the people in the units at the top of the building with a roof. For everyone else, they're going to have difficulty collecting that rainwater. Having collected rainwater and using it for washing and cooking or whatever, how are you going to dispose of it? Because each unit is separate. There's no drainage. You may have a composting toilet, but that's going to fill up quite quickly, and then you're going to need to find some way to empty it. Are you sure that 1120 watt of power generation with 3 kilowatt of storage, are you sure that's going to be enough for 2 people, considering you're running air conditioning, you'll need some lighting, perhaps heating and cooking, etc. And what happens if you get several cloudy days? So you believe you're producing modular unlimited design housing. You mentioned superior stability. Well, the units may stack nicely, and I assume they'll have some method of locking against each other. But you're going to require a base, a good, solid and level base. Otherwise you're going to get it subsiding, tipping, falling over. Not really good for housing. You also mention maximum functionality. I can think of a function it hasn't got.
Stairs.
Or an elevator. If you're up on floor 5, how the hell are you going to get down? Your mission statement. Hover City has a multifaceted mission of helping the world's homeless, providing affordable and... You have got a pulled out of your arse figure of $35,000 per unit. How many homeless people are going to be able to afford that? Rapid response disaster relief aid. Again, isn't it cheaper just to parachute in a whole bunch of tents? Offering consumers the opportunity to purchase a home designed for sustainable and portable living and pushing the boundaries of travel experiences. When I go travelling, I want to fly to a country and enjoy the beach, or I want to visit a city and look at old architecture or something. What I don't want to do is fly around in a glorified shed. Frequently asked questions. Yeah, I have one or two. Well, the main question is, how does a hover house fly? Because if it doesn't fly, it's nothing more than a prefabricated room. Hover house units will be able to fly autonomously by an electric powered drone that features eight propellers, foldable arms and a built-in parachute for emergency landings. Well, we've already talked about the parachute. It will have to deploy extremely fast like a base jumper's and yet be very, very large. The hover house will be coated in aluminium or carbon fibre to assist in aerodynamics. It's a great big block. It's never going to be aerodynamic. The drones and flying hover house technology will be available in 2023. Quite ambitious. For drones, you have to consider the thrust to weight ratio. And that rule of thumb is 2 to 1, just to fly. If you want anything at all reactive, you have to go higher, 3 or even 4 to 1. But let's stick with 2 to 1. You want to lift 2,000 pounds, which means you're going to need 4,000 pounds of thrust. Of course, that's totally ignoring the weight of the drone itself. Generally, with good drones, you can expect a flight time maximum of about 30 minutes. As soon as you get into heavy lift drones, you can half that to about 15. And when I say heavy lift, we're talking £10, £25, maybe even £50. But what about larger drones? Well, the largest I've found is this one.
This drone has a massive payload capacity of 500 pounds. It is about 8 feet in length. Now, there isn't much information about this drone, but since it might weigh more than 55 pounds, you may need a pilot's license to fly this. The drone itself costs $250,000, but there are other versions of the drone that Griff Aviation makes that can be found for cheaper.
So you're talking about a drone that could carry 1/4 of the amount you're talking about, and it costs about $250,000. And what about speed? You've mentioned a speed of up to 65 miles an hour. So the question is, can a drone go that fast? Yes, it can. There are drones that are designed to go as fast as 65 or 70 miles an hour. Racing drones. To give you an idea of the scale of the problem of lifting 2,000 pounds, have a look at one of these. This is a Boeing Chinook. Now that can lift 26,000 pounds maximum payload, which is about 12-13 times what you're talking about. But that's the sort of effort that's going to be required to lift 2,000 pounds. So the idea that you have come up with is the equivalent of taking one of these, making it being able to carry as much of one of these, while being able to go as fast as one of these, and deliver it by sometime next year. It's not going to happen. So who's the brains behind this whiz-bang idea? It's Mr. Rawad ABou Zaki. Here he is being interviewed.
Hey Rawad, nice to meet you. Thank you for hosting us on your booth today. It's great to see how Lebanese talent is succeeding with very innovative projects such as this one.
Only he's succeeded in nothing, has he? He's come up with some fantastical idea and shown a fancy video. I could do that. I haven't actually produced anything.
So you're basically launching Hover City today at Vivatech. So what's the idea about your project? Can you tell us a little bit? I've seen here a photo of a port explosion.
Whenever a disaster happens, something like what happened in Lebanon, in 1 second 300,000 people have no homes.
Exactly.
Yes, a terrible disaster and 300,000 people homeless.
And unfortunately, the construction industry doesn't have an answer for that. You're going to need 20 years to rebuild the city. And what do you do with the people who are homeless? Nobody wants his family to live in tents.
Of course not, but tents are a quick, cheap, easy, reliable means of providing shelter to people.
As temporary. So NGOs are struggling to manage this problem because on the market there is no solution that combines mobility, reliability, sustainability, all these kind of stuff, but also preserves dignity and integration.
And don't tell me, but that's exactly what flying houses apparently do.
And that's what we bring in here. So basically you can literally order a city online and it will arrive to you. And we are projecting building a house every 3 minutes. So basically in a disaster, hopefully nothing would happen in the future, but disasters do happen. So you can house the whole population of Beirut the same day.
You said what?
So you can house the whole population of Beirut the same day.
So you have a terrible disaster, 300,000 people homeless. At a rate of 2 people per unit, of course, that's 150,000 prefabricated units required. So you just order them online. They're delivered, and they're put in place at the rate of 1 every 3 minutes. Can anybody spell deluded?
Really? There are different configurations.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why it's hexagonal. Hexagonal shape is patented as well. So it allows for extreme durability.
Wow.
At the same time, it's aerodynamic because when you're flying, you want maximum efficiency in flight.
So I've seen here that you can fly those units.
Yes, absolutely.
So
it's
you
a flying
can
house.
reach areas that are not reachable by car, by truck.
Exactly. Because when a disaster happens, you have no infrastructure, you have no time, and you have no labor to rely on. So you need automation. What we do now is the last mile because of a lot. As you can see, as you saw from the image before, there is a ship in front of the port,
Yes.
and the drone is the one distributing houses and building them.
Yes.
Because it's not only about technology at that time; it's also about regulations. You can't fly. You have a lot of laws for flying now. It has to be in the line of sight, meaning you can see it when it's flying. It has to be in a controlled area, and it has to be 1 unit at a time.
So I guess bang go our wonderful sightseeing holidays in our flying houses then.
So we tick all these boxes with the one last mile kind of stack.
Well, Mr. ABou Zaki, I shall assume that you're not a scam artist, as you seem like quite a nice guy. However, the only list of boxes you managed to tick with this project is the entire list of reasons why this is absolutely, totally not feasible in any way, shape or form and will never get off the ground. Did you see what I did there? It would appear that you have not got the faintest idea of what it is you're trying to accomplish, nor the hurdles that you're going to have to cross, because you're talking about making deliveries sometime next year and you're looking for backing of £36,000 to do it. Thankfully, there's not quite as many gullible people in the world as I thought, as you've only raised £815. Well, thank you very much, Mr. ABou Zaki. Don't call us, we'll call you. Until next time, stay sensible.
Shut up and sit down.